2018, I woke up in excruciating pain. I was unable to move my body for long periods of time. And even though I knew, I kind of had a strong sense of just kind of the reason for this pain because of the mistreatment for years without having a Ranger tab as an infantry officer and the mental toll that had. I did not quite realize the full extent to the damage that had been done. And I went to the emergency room at that point. I actually went to the emergency room multiple times, and they told me several times in a row that they didn't know what was wrong with me. And they even told me that my body was physically very healthy. Up until that point, I had been doing a lot of running. I had been out of the Army for about 2 years, and I even completed the Spartan Ultra Beast just 1 month before having this mental breakdown. That was a tough race. It was 30 miles with 15,000 feet elevation and 60 plus obstacles at the Killington Ski Resort. I completed that in September of 2018, and this mental health episode that I'm talking about happened towards the end of October, I believe. So I ended up actually going back to the emergency room 1 or 2 more times, and eventually a doctor did tell me that they believe that maybe what you're experiencing doesn't have anything to do with physical symptoms, but mental health. So I ended up getting a consult to go be seen by mental health. But let me back this up to some of you may not have heard the stories that I shared about failing Army Ranger School or the treatment that I got from the majority of, maybe not all, but the majority of Ranger tabbed officers in my unit. So that was a really big deal. As an Army infantry officer, you're supposed to have a Ranger tab. And it was just reinforced at every single level of my training, especially just everything from infantry basic officer leaders course. You would hear Colonel Ralph Puckett himself. He came in and he said, he did specifically say that you are completely letting down your soldiers and your men. And he pretty much, as far as I remember, said that you're letting down the country if you don't have a Ranger tab. I did the best that I could. I was a triple no-go in the mountain phase, and then I tried to go back. And as I said in previous videos, I was called back because of a government shutdown, and I was at Fort Hood where it was not very easy to get a Ranger slot. So I did everything I could, and then I never got a chance to go back again at that point. And at that point, the damage was done. I mean, the damage as far as like I had made the decision that I needed to get out of the Army at, years after this event. And it's not just like how I was treated in the Army by officers. I have a whole video just specifically about sharing personal stories, and I'm gonna make others because there was a lot that they did. You know, they called me a tab, said different things. The executive officer specifically, he very much made a culture within the unit where people could pretty much talk freely, and there was a whole culture. It wasn't just like you were supposed to have a Ranger tab because that was a professional achievement. They made me feel like I was not like a good person, like that I was not a successful person. They convinced me that I basically didn't have values, but it wasn't just while I was in the Army, like at work in a work setting. It was all the different social events. They would do all these like hail and farewells. They would do all these like military balls, and I would have needed to go to those because everyone was expected to go. I never wanted to go. I wanted to be out rock climbing and doing things that brought me joy, but I would always go because you were expected to go. I didn't have any friends in the unit, really, pretty much at all. I was pretty much just taught to be who I was. Like, they pretty much just taught me and reinforced the idea that I'm just some outcast that was never supposed to be there, was never supposed to be in the infantry. And maybe that's true, but you know what? This is the message that I want to put out there. This is not easy to talk about either. And I've been getting quite a bit of positive encouragement. I really appreciate that, but I'm also getting a lot of negative feedback, and that's why people don't want to talk about these issues. There could be people that are Army infantry officers that might be able to connect with this. There could be soldiers that might be able to connect with a message like this. There could be people that are just not in the military. And I've just finally decided that I'm just going to put out my story. And I know there's people that are going through things that are way, way harder than this, but I'm still going to share my story because this is something that really affected me. This was something that really hit me at a very personal level. So to get back to the physical pain of stress, I mean, this happened numerous times over, and I'm gonna share more videos that talk about the dreams and the recurring dreams and just all of that side. I don't think I'm gonna make this video about dreams specifically, but those symptoms that I shared for the opening part of this video, they were very painful and very real. And I guess a lot of it kind of just sat in my body for years because I was just taught to deal with things. I probably should have, I've gotten a lot of comments, some of them pretty negative comments too, but I'm just gonna mention it because it keeps coming over. Why didn't you change branches? And I'm not saying that's negative, but depending on how someone puts it in context, there's definitely been some pretty mean comments. And there has been a lot of comments like, why didn't you change branches? You know what? It's because I was always taught to just push through. So just because I failed Ranger school, I know some of you are just gonna troll me and say that, oh, he wasn't tough enough, he wasn't this. You know, that might be true, you know, to some extent. Maybe I didn't have like the exact persona that I needed to have. Like that could definitely be true, but I was still taught to be tough in different ways. And I wanna remind some of you guys that like, you might not know me, like, you know, unless there's some of you guys that have met me, you know, you might not know me. You know, you're just listening to me talk and you're making assumptions about me. You know, you guys, some of you guys weren't there when I was doing a ruck march in close to 2 hours, you know, faster than virtually anybody that I served with. So it's like, I did work very hard, and maybe I didn't have the exact persona, the exact, you know, characteristics that I was supposed to have as an Army infantry officer. And I'm willing to humble myself and say that maybe it was not the correct job, but I still worked very hard. I put a lot of effort into this. You guys don't think for even a second that I was just able to do a 2-hour ruck march because of just pure talent. It's because I worked extremely hard. I put everything that I had into this. And maybe I was not the right person, but this affected me very deeply. This affected me a lot when I had a majority of officers in my unit that were just willing to demean me and call me things like tablet over and over again. And you know, I have a whole video talking more about that. They would use the code word TB, and then I finally figured it out because I overheard people use the actual term. So I want to just reinforce to you guys that, you know, if you're going through something really hard, you should not stay in a toxic environment. I was taught to just stay there because as an infantry officer or infantry person, you're supposed to be tough and you're supposed to endure. And now I'm putting these things out there, and I'm gonna get a lot of flack for some of these things. And I've decided that it's just worth it for me to put it out there, because sometimes you need to leave a toxic environment. And I think we need to destigmatize the idea of talking about mental health. And if you're really struggling with something, you know, even if you've been taught that you're just supposed to be tough, see somebody. If you're in the military, I'm not a professional, by the way, so I'm not telling you what you should do or evaluate you or any of that stuff. What I'm telling you is that if you're really struggling, whether you're in the military or not, if you're really struggling, see a professional, get some help. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do, but I will tell you that I think you should see a professional. And I don't think you should delay on that. If in your heart and your soul it's telling you, if you have full body pain and you don't know where it's coming from, I'm not diagnosing you right now, but what I'm telling you is you should probably see a professional. And thank you guys for watching this video. That's all I wanted to say today. You can subscribe for more, and I'm gonna share more of my experiences.